Olá, pessoal. Muito bom dia, muito boa tarde, muito boa noite. Sejam todos muito bem-vindos ao canal do Ícaro Cavalheiro, no nosso papo de surfista para surfista no On Fire, nesta quarta-feira, dia 24 de abril de 2024. Vamos ter uma super live nesta quarta-feira e contamos com a participação de todos vocês. Bom, a nossa live vai ser super especial e, por isso, nós vamos ter um convidado que fala inglês. Então, a nossa live ela vai ser toda em inglês, ok? Nesse princípio, mas após o término, nós vamos ter ela toda traduzida aqui no nosso canal do YouTube, ok? A gente espera que todos consigam entender o máximo. O Barton Lynch fala um pouquinho de português, entende? Mas, basicamente, a nossa live de hoje vai ser em inglês, ok? Então, 5 minutos após o término da live, vocês já vão poder ouvir na íntegra em inglês. Vamos lá, tenho convidados para a live especial desse evento, que, na verdade, é uma live, né? Nosso Surfer to Surfer chat with Ícaro Cavalheiro and my guests, and I have a really special guest. The first one is André Gioranelli, ex-professional surfer, surf coach that lives in California. Welcome, André.
Thank you, Ícaro. Muito obrigado pelo convite. Thank you so much to invite me and the other guys. We have a lot of legends today. And it's a pleasure for me to be here. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. It's going to be a nice show.
That's it. One more. We have here the guy, the Eagle Man from Brazil. He's a Brazilian champion from 1989. He lives in Portugal right now. Very welcome to Pedro Muller, straight from Portugal. And he works like all of these two guys are my commentators on my YouTube channel when we do a live surf competition, the comments, but they both are surf coaches too in their city. Welcome, Pedro Muller.
Thank you, Ícaro. Good night for everybody. Hi, André. It's nice to be here again. It's a pleasure to be here again, talking in English this time and talk with people that understand a lot about surfing. Great pleasure to be here.
Yes, it's our pleasure as well. This surfer roundtable will be incredible. The best ever in Brazil for sure. The next guy is one Brazilian from Rio de Janeiro. He's one of the first Brazilians that come to be an ASP judge. Is one of those guys that, like us, say, come on, I need to get out from here, from ASP judging. It's a big pleasure. Straight from Hawaii, Rômulo Fonseca. Welcome, Rômulo.
Hi, how are you doing? Thanks for the kind words. It's a pleasure to be here, such a legend on different generations. So I'm ready to give my and it's all good.
Okay. Thank you, Rômulo. And the most special guest that we have tonight. This guy has been a lot of times in Brazil, okay? I have a lot of histories with this guy. I remember like in 1991, when I arrived in Tahiti, I was in Tapuna. Who is there? Oh, Mr. Barton Lynch. That time he was married to a Brazilian, you know? Him, VT Apoto Davi, Rosaldo Cavalcante, Kassam, the photographer. And then I am there and I say, oh my God, Robbie Page, Stuart Bedford Brown, and Mr. Barton Lynch that now lives in Hawaii. And he was one of, like, all of us here was ex-employee from ASP or WSL, Barton. Welcome to our channel and our round table, Barton.
Oi, amigos, boa noite, muito obrigado. Good to be here. Good to see friendly faces. Pedro and I surfed against each other many times on the tour. Yes. And Rômulo, we know each other from many years. So it's good to be here.
Yes, you are very welcome. And we have you here because we really respect you. And we watch your postcard all the time. and you understand about surfing, and we are so proud to have you here. And then, is this what we want to do? We want to talk about surfing and professional surfing and how the tour is right now and how the surf go from like 20 years ago to now and what we will be expect for the future. Okay, Barton, you are our star tonight. Okay, we
Okay.
are talking about surfing, but can you? I need to tell you something, and you know that for sure that the next decade for Brazilian usually the surf grows a lot and all over the world as well, right? Um, so many people that today they are fans from surf. They basically never surfing, but they love surfing because the events and the webcasts and everything. They see you, but some of them like to know more about you. Where you come from, Mike?
Was born in Sydney, Australia, in Manly Hospital, and I lived my first 11 years at a place called Whale Beach, which is on the northern beaches of Sydney. And my mum and dad moved there just before I was born to the beach. They lived in the inner city, in the middle of the city. My dad was a policeman, and they managed to buy a house out by Whale Beach, which at the time was like a little country town. And my dad died when I passed away when I was 11 years old. And we moved at that time inland to a place called Mossman, it's about 7 miles from Manly. And at the time I was already surfing and I loved surfing and it was my passion. And when my mum took me away from the beach, I was devastated. I thought my surfing was over. And then at school, I saw some kids that looked like they surfed. And I went up to them and I said, "Hey, do you surf?" And they said, "Yeah." I go, "Where do you surf? Where's the beach? Where are we?" And they told me that Manly Beach was 7 miles that way, and that on Tuesday after sport, their mum would drive them to the beach. And I said, "Can I come? I can surf." And that's when I realized that the beach was just, not too far away. And every single day I would hitchhike to the beach. And every day I would get in and out of 4 strangers' cars from Mossman to Manly, Manly, Mossman before school, Mossman, Manly, Manly, Mossman after school. So every day I would get into 4 strangers' cars, but just to get to the beach and just to surf. And so it's always been my life, but Sydney was always my home.
Wow, that I don't know that. I don't know if many people know about that. This is good to know, man. And when you start surfing that you look, oh, I can compete. How was this your start competing in Australia?
Yeah, I mean, in Australia, everybody looked at surfing like a bum sport. It wasn't like respected, And when I was starting, surfers, people thought they were drug addicts, no hopers, beach bums, And my mum didn't like the idea of me surfing. No one really thought surfing. Nobody respected surfing at that point in time, and so that became our job, was to make surfing respected, to make people respect us for what we do. And I always was very conscious about trying to do that, trying to make sure that people respected us, respected surfing. And then very early I saw professional surfing, 76. And I was like, I want to be a professional surfer. That's what I want to do. And I didn't go to school a lot. I didn't have a dad to discipline me. And so I was able to sneak to the beach all the time, and the teachers couldn't control me. And so surfing just became my life. And that was always what I was going to do and always how I was going to eat and survive. And, so I just have always, I really, in all my life, I don't know many people who surfed more than me. When I was a kid, nobody surfed more than me, for sure. Wow. I didn't know anyone that surfed more than me. And so all my life, I've just been surfing my brains out,
Wow, that's a great story. Yeah,
love it.
That's it. I remember when I was young, like very young, with my brother in Balneário Camboriú, south of Brazil. And then, like the first light time, we have an apartment in front of the beach. And the first light time, myself and my brother, he passed away already, unfortunately, younger than me. We just was in the beach already. And when Mama wanted us to back home, she put a red towel on the veranda, on the balcony, and say, okay, time to go back. If not, we stay all day long. She bring a chocolate for us to feed us in the water, and we come back home at night time. It's crazy. Different times, right?
Yeah, and you didn't worry about getting sunburned. You didn't think about sunscreen. You didn't.
Yeah.
It was I'm so grateful I got to live when I did, because it was such a free, wonderful time to live and to be a surfer. Innocent time, it felt like,
Yeah.
But it's really important to have a target, to know what you want to do. And then you can focus on 100% on, in your case, you are surfing. And that's why you became such a good competitor, because you want to make a live out of surfing. So that's really important. When you are sure, you were 100% sure that you want to be a surfer or want to do anything on your life, that helps a lot. Helps you to be succeed on that.
He had the drive. He
has
the drive. Yeah.
And when my dad died, my God, well, I wake up in the morning in my bed to my mother's crying, to my mother's tears, and I can hear outside my room that things are not good. I know it's bad. I know it's really bad, because just from the crying, and how heartbroken she sounded, and I was too scared to get up. I was too scared to get out of my bed and go face what that reality was. So I just rolled over and tried to go back to sleep and hope when I wake up later it'd be different. But my godfather came and he took me to our veranda, which overlooked the ocean. And he said, your dad passed away last night. You're the man of the house now. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's terrifying. Maybe if my mum never has to think about me in her life. And I have two younger brothers. So I'm 60. I have a 57 and a 54-year-old brother. And I thought maybe if my mum never has to think about me, then that might be the best I can do for being the man of the house, And so since I was 11 years old, I've been financially independent. I've been looking after myself, paying for myself. I never went to my mum ever in my whole life for money or for help. And I just kind of went out on my own journey and let my mum take care of my brothers, and thought that, that's why I was so serious, because I needed to eat. And I was never going to go and ask my mum for money. And I was going to find it somewhere, create it, make it. And so, I was super determined, Pedro. Like you said, I had a clear target. I was not going to ask my mum for money. I was going to go earn it. From 11 years old, I've been doing that. So I had a very strong reason to do it,
That's great. You did something good out of a very hard situation, and it become a pretty good, something pretty good for you. Like,
yeah, it did become pretty good.
Yeah. That's why he's here today. See, that's why he's here today.
Yeah. Okay, we introduce each other, and like Barton and Pedro, they have a really good history together. They make a final in Joaquina. What year, Pedro?
There was 94, maybe 94, I think.
1994. That's
94.
Great.
Yeah.
And with Julio Adler, and the other one who was?
Jojo de Olivença.
Jojo de Olivença. Who was the winner?
I won the final. I think Barton was second and Jojo or Julio third. I don't remember, but it was nice. Joaquin was going off. There was really nice lefts, some long lefts, and I was surfing away from the tower. I was away from all the competitors the whole contest. I was finding some nice lefts, and I don't know. That was my day. That was my contest. I found all the good waves. For me, it was big win. It was a honor to beat Barton on the final, and I think I won all my heats during this contest. It was a very special contest for me.
This is amazing. We have a really good history here. Those guys make the surfing history all over the world for sure. Barton, we will go a little bit more serious now, just to remind you that we would like to remind our guests that you are not obligated to answer questions if you feel uncomfortable, okay? Just for you guys to know, if you feel uncomfortable, you don't need to ask, because I will do a serious question about surfing, about what's happening all over the world, and you guys are free to answer or not. Barton, you are part of several generations of world surfing and have gone through all phases of the sport growth. How do you see the sport of surfing today? What has changed from your time as a competitor to today? It's how this changed for you from when you started compete professional and what you see today.
Yeah, well, I think the first thing is that it wasn't respected. It wasn't anything. The generation before us, the 70s generation, they created professional surfing. It didn't exist. Those guys didn't want to get jobs. They wanted to go to the beach, mate. They didn't want to work. And so out of their desperation to be free, they created professional surfing. And so when I saw that, I always had so much respect for the elders who created the opportunity for me to not have a job and to go to the beach and surf for a living. So that is the biggest change, because now surfing is respected around the world. Our champions, our sport has been accepted into the Olympics. Our champions are respected alongside tennis and golf and football and all the other sports. Surfing is regarded as a serious, proper professional sport, and it's had global expansion. And we've watched, different countries have, if you think about the 70s was the time of the Hawaiians, really. Larry Bertelsmann, Jeff Hackman, Jerry Lopez, Rory Russell, Reno Abelera. That generation set the pace, created things. And then the Australians through the 80s, I suppose, late 70s, 80s, Rabbit Bartholomew, Mark Richards, and Sean Thompson, and then into our generation. And then in the 90s was the Americans. They had the momentum generation, had their time. Yeah. And now we're witnessing and living in the time of the Brazilian storm, as it's been called. So I've watched those generational changes throughout the time, decades of dominance by certain nations. And so to see it continue to grow and there be waves in places you never even imagined, like the world, and then there's wave pools and they're popping up where the natural waves aren't. And you've just got this world of waves and this world of opportunity and jobs for all types of people. So to watch it grow into something that is respected, I suppose, for me is the most valuable part. The respect and the opportunity for it to continue to grow has been amazing.
This is great. And this sports evolution create a lot of new professionals too, a lot of careers you can do. If you are not an excellent surfer, you can be a commentator, you can be a judge, you can be a shaper, you can do so many things even with this surf evolution. André, I think that you have some questions for Barton, right? About this evolution, how you think about the Brazilians now and after?
Yes. First of all, I just want to apologize to all of you guys and all the people are watching us too. I'm not feeling really well, so I got a little cold, running nose. But I will do my best over here. Right now, I'm feeling good. My nose, it's a little bit sniffing, but it is what it is. It's really nice what Barton was saying, about generation, and made me think, like in my mind, like right away, it's like I was thinking, it looks like then we are going to end of the Brazilian storm. I think we still have a few more years to go with Felipe and Gabriel and Italo and Iago. Those guys are not really, really old, but they're getting there, right? They're 30s, 30 something, 27, and it's part of life. It's part of cycle. And I truly believe, at some point, maybe in 5 more years, the Brazilian generation, the Brazilian storm generation, they will fading away a little bit. But that's gonna be, I believe that's the beauty of the sport too. Maybe new Australians will come. Maybe somebody from Europe will come really strong. Maybe somebody from South America will come really strong too. From Peru, they have great waves. Mexico, they have great waves as well. And I want to see more. I want to see like a great Japanese surfer. Yes, we already have Kanoa, but he's a Japanese because of father, mother, but he grew up over here in California. It doesn't count. I want to see a real Japanese guy on tour, because that's when I think the tour will be a lot more diverse, and maybe we are not going to have the same judging problems we are having right now. What is your thought about this?
Yeah, I definitely see it generationally. I feel like the Brazilian, say Tom Carroll, Barton Lynch, Mark Occhilupo, Damien Hardman, our generation, Gary Elkerton, there was a lot of guys in our generation. We had our momentum came from the generation before us. And I feel like this Brazilian generation that we're watching now has just been incredible and taken the sport to new levels of gymnastic ability.
Yeah.
Particularly in the air, and where the sport has gone has just been amazing. I don't know when it ends or if it ends, or whether there's young kids coming up that are like Mark Occhilupo and Tom Carroll behind Mark Richards and Rabbit Bartholomew. And there's young kids. I feel like there's going to be incredible young kids coming out of Brazil. The thing that happened in Australia, I think, is when money comes in and things are easier, people don't want it as badly. It's not life and death. It's not food. And we had to win heats to get to the next contest.
Yep.
We had to win heats to buy your dinner.
Yep.
When you've got lots of money, it's not so important anymore.
I agree.
That's when you see the edge come off and the competitive edge come off. And when we think about Gabrielle, as an example, Gabrielle was maybe one of the most ruthless, focused, determined, best competitors we have ever seen. Incredible competitor. How he lost at Bells and how he let Cole Hauschman get that last wave. Gabrielle Medina would never have done that 5 years ago.
That's
Cole
true.
Hauschman would never have got that wave to win that heat.
Yeah, he had priority. Yeah.
He had priority, and all he had to do was stop him getting that wave, and he wins the heat. And although there were other things in the heat that obviously affected him and made him bummed about it and took him off his game, he would never have let Cole Hauschman get that last wave 5 years ago.
Yeah, because he was sad.
As you become successful, you can become a little less focused and sometimes a little sloppy around the sides of your competing.
That's a great point.
So that's what I feel like we've seen in Australia, that it's not life and death for those Australians. They're okay. They're going to be okay. So they enjoy what they're doing, and it's not the same. So that's the thing Brazil has to be careful or aware of, is to make sure the hunger and the desire is still pure and still strong and not satisfied by money and success.
You're completely
because the money and success
right.
steals the desire. And all of a sudden you're in a heat, you're in priority, you're in the lead, there's a minute to go, and you let someone get a wave that you would ordinarily, before, when you were super hungry, you would never have let that happen.
Yeah.
Well,
it's one thing when you pour, right? You have to climb this ladder and you're hungry. You want to kill everyone. You don't want to make friends. I want my spot. I want to make money. I want to buy a house to my mother. I want to help my brother. I want to help my grandma. That's one thing. And then when I have everything, I already have everything. I'm a hero. I'm an international hero. Everybody knows me. And then the hunger is like, oh, it's getting lower and lower and lower, right? That's tough. That's a good question too. That's why I think Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo, those two soccer players, you know, they're still amazing because they won everything and they've been fighting even harder every year, and they've been doing this for more than 10 years already. So that's nuts. And those guys are billionaires, right?
Exatamente.
Yeah, that's the mente. That's the mente.
That's the thing that I feel in you know, successful countries where surfing's big and everyone's got the money, is you just don't, they're not willing to go all the way. You know, and that's what I always loved about Gabriel, is that he will go all the way. He will play that game by the rules as far as he can push those rules. And that's how the sport grows. That's how everything grows, is by having those people who are ready to just go and go as hard as they can to win. And so that's what I've loved about the Brazilian surfing. That's the potential end of things, is when people become soft and satisfied and don't have the same desire, you know?
Yeah. So I you know, like I apologize again because I'm speaking a lot. So I'm gonna have one more question for you, and then I'm gonna give to Pedro and to Rômulo because they need to speak as well. It's a basic question too. It's because it's amazing to have an Australian guy over here with us, you know, and to ask like a simple question: the way the world see ourselves as a Brazilian. We know in the past, our generation, well, they call us Brazilian nuts. And over here in US, I've been living in US for long enough, and some of my friends, they call us crazilians, right? Crazilians. That's, you know, again, but I really want to know about how you guys see yourselves, because in many times I feel like then sometimes you have a bad thing about one Brazilian and you think the whole country it is like this, and that's not true. You know, we have some incredible people in Brazil, yes, and we have some really bad ones, but everywhere else it is exactly the same. Australia, America, Germany, Portugal, Spain, we have bad people and good people everywhere, but it looks like with us, it's like all those Brazilians, all those crazilians, all those Brazilian nuts. And I want to see your opinion back then when we just arrived on the surfing scene, and now the way everybody else sees Brazilians, you know, Brazilian surfers in general.
Yeah, it's a good question. The very first time I left Australia to go to a professional contest outside of, you know, first place I came was Hawaii in 1980, 81, 82. But then in 83, I went on the world tour, and the first stop was South Africa. And in South Africa, I stayed with Rico de Souza and Paul Thurston and Tony Moniz. And so these bunch of different people from different countries ended up staying together. And he was kind of the first Brazilian guy I ever met in my life, really, was Rico. And he is a wonderful ambassador, mate, of aloha, of stoke, of surfing. And he was a really good person to me. Then when I started, I met Pepe Lopez.
Oh, another
and
legend.
Pepe became a friend of mine too. I would stay at his house when it come to Brazil, and he looked after me too. So I always had good impressions. And I imagine, like, say the time we live in, the problem with now is people generalizing about people. Say you're a conspiracy theorist, you're a this, you're a that. And when you generalize and you call people and put them in a box and go, they're this, you know, Brazilians are this. The problem is you're disrespecting the individuality of every individual. And there are no two people the same. There's no two Brazilians the same. And so everybody is completely different. And when you become aware that the generalizations are ignorant and are dumbing down everybody and everything, I always had that understanding. And I always knew that people were different and not all people were the same. And that it was okay and it was a good thing. And so my early interactions with the Brazilians were always good. We would come to Brazil, though, and when you would have, you'd have Pedro, Jojo, you'd be in a final like that, say, at Joaquina, or you'd be in a heat with a Brazilian, it felt gnarly. It felt like it was you against the world, and the whole beach wanted you to lose, and everybody wanted you to lose. But I never took that personally.
Mm-hmm.
I never felt like it was against me. I knew they just wanted their country to do good.
Yeah.
And that to me is a very normal thing. So I feel like I never had the same pigeonholing or putting all the Brazilians into one box and going, the Brazilians are this, and calling them this or that. Mm-hmm. I always had the awareness that everyone's different, mate.
Yeah.
But there was definite, I think when anything new happens and anyone new comes along to threaten the establishment, they don't like it.
Exactly.
In anything, anywhere, politics to surfing, they don't like new things, and people are threatened. And we live in general with a scarcity mentality, meaning that there's not enough to go around, so you must fight to get what's yours and take it from the other people. And if they get it, you won't get it. But this is a very negative perspective, and the scarcity mindset is something that is people we have to evolve ourselves, our own consciousness out of, to understand that maybe there is enough for all of us. Maybe if Brazil does good, it's good for surfing. Maybe if the Brazilian wins, it's good for surfing. It's not bad for me necessarily because it's not me. So that was, for me, I grew up like that as a competitor. I used to want Oki to lose. I used to want Tom Carroll to lose. I wanted to, when my opponents would do badly, I would feel better.
Mm-hmm.
And then I realized that's a really bad place to be. If you need other people to fail for you to feel successful, it's not a good mindset. So I grew out of that slowly but surely, and got to the point where I wanted to see my opponents do well. And I was like, if they do well, then I'll do well. And I changed my mentality. Yeah. So I think that the scarcity mentality is what scared people about Brazilians. They don't like new things. They don't like people coming to take what's yours.
Yeah, I think it's more like the culture. It's completely different too. I think for you, because you're Australian, I remember like to see the Australian. I was on the beach when you beat Sonny Garcia at Barra da Tijuca on a perfect right. It was big and was perfect. I was maybe 16, 17. I remember that day too. And the point is, when I was a kid, like 14, 13, 15, 16, my idols, they were Australians, Hawaiians, and Americans, right? And pretty much my whole generation, they were thinking exactly the same. Of course, one of my idols, Pedro Muller, he's right here. And I had Jorge Olivença, and I had Dada Figueiredo. Of course, I had some Brazilians, Fábio and Teco too, Victor Ribas. Yeah. But the Americans, the Australians, and the Hawaiians, they were my idols as well, and it feels like then right now it's like, no, you cannot have like a Brazilian idol. Those guys, they're pricks, they're unpolite, and they're this, and they walk as like a lot of people together. They stick together, they claim they're loud, but people need to understand it's part of our culture to be like this, right? And the funny thing is, this new American Stormy, right? I think that's a good way. That's a good way to put it. They are doing exactly the same thing because they learned it from us, and I think that's the beauty of the sport, right?
Exatamente.
Yeah,
exactly.
100%. And that's. I think that's they did learn it from you. And when we started, when the same thing happened when the momentum generation came along, Kelly Slater, Rob Machado, Shane Dorian, they were the first surfers to come along with lots of money. Mm-hmm. They were all wealthy, and we didn't like them for that alone. You know what I mean? It's like, hey, we deserve the money. Why have they got it? Just because they're Americans?
Yeah.
And we didn't like them. And then it drove the Australians to come together, and they had a moment which was called LMB, which was a period in time which was a response from the Australians, and we all came together and started working together a bit as a response to the momentum generation. So you're exactly right. That's how it happens, but it's a narrow perspective.
Yes, it is.
Isn't it? You know,
yes,
like
it
that
is.
is a
Yeah.
narrow thing.
All right, thank you so much. I'm gonna give to Pedro and to Rômulo. I spoke too much already. It was amazing.
Okay, just we will have a few water. We just have a quick break, like 1 minute, and we're back. Okay, we'll be back soon. A quick break, my director.
Bem-vindo ao Inzuma Residencial Resort, o primeiro das Américas com piscina de ondas em água salgada. Mais que um resort, um imóvel em alto padrão para a vida inteira, onde a natureza se encontra com a aventura, os esportes radicais e aquáticos. Invista na sua qualidade de vida. Inzuma Residencial Resort, ondas, aventuras e descanso o ano todo. Reserve sua propriedade agora. Você sabia que nós agora temos uma rádio 24 horas? Acesse icarocavalheiro.webradiosite.com. Temos a rádio funcionando a todo vapor 24 horas por dia. No lado direito, link para a loja, link para o Instagram do Ícaro Cavalheiro, outro para ser redirecionado diretamente ao canal aqui no YouTube, um tópico com as entrevistas mais vistas do mês, uma super enquete onde você vai dizer o que devemos tocar durante o dia aqui na rádio e logo acima um espaço para você deixar o seu recado e pedir músicas. Acesse icarocavalheiro.webradiosite.com. E em cima no canto direito superior tem link para o Instagram, para a loja do Ícaro, o nosso canal e a instalação do Web App, o aplicativo que você instala no Windows e em qualquer aparelho, seja Android ou iOS. Acesse agora!
For almost everything there is a limit. A limit to not get hurt. A limit to not say more than you should. But also a limit to not remain silent. Honest grades and judgments. That's all we ask. Destroy the waves, but don't destroy the surf. A campaign by the Ícaro Cavalheiro channel.
Okay, and we are back. Yes, Barton, André, thank you. Pedro, any question? Rômulo, any question for Barton on this?
It's not. It's not a question, but I'd just like to say and talk with everybody. Professional surfing is in such a high level right now. It's like everybody's surfing good. Everybody has access to good equipment, to good surfboards. Everybody has some very experienced coach. It's become really hard to win heats. It's really hard to win contests. Like 20 guys of the championship tour are able to win contests, and sometimes you need to be in tune with the conditions to win contests. Like it's not the preparation that you have, it's not the physical part of, like, you have to be in tune with the ocean. You have to be happy or to things go on your way. Like I remember when you won your world title in '88 at Pipeline. Looks like everything was going on your side. Everything was happening on your favor. And sometimes you need that to make a little difference and to help you to win heats. Like this year, it's been really competitive year. The level is really high. It's hard to pick some favorites to win contests. Sure, we have some guys that perform better in waves like Tahiti or Fiji, and they are favorites, but most of the contests, it's really hard to predict who's going to win the contest, who's going to win that heat. So it's very equal, the level of surfing right now. So that's why it's been such a polemical results this year. That's what I believe. Like, it's hard to say, oh, that John Jones' turn was better than Gabriel's off the leap, or it's really hard. Like, everybody's surfing good, everybody's hit this level, and I think for the judging, it's also really hard to difference what's better, what's best, and what's not best. Just something I want to talk about with you guys.
I'd love to hear Rômulo's thoughts on the judging as it is, as a former judge and someone who's lived in that space. Rômulo, you watch the events now?
Yeah, I think there's always been a problem with judging, that we measure the score with a half-point margin, right? And then we give the result on a decimal level. So, for example, Medina's first wave, right, the one against John Jones. He got a 7.83. And some people say he could have got a 85. But at that point, it's a 7.83, right? And if it was half point more, it would be acceptable, right? But then on the wave that John Jones changed with the two big maneuvers, and I really thought he turned the heat because it was turned. So that's for me always the problem with judging. Half point is okay on the score, more or less, but then we give the results in decimal. I think that he was 0.17. So how can you measure something that half point is okay to give more or less, and then to give the result in decimal? So always gonna be a matter of opinion, and also like to see the heat afterwards and analyze it. Oh yeah, Medina's first rate should be half point more, but that's already it. So
Yeah.
judging always gonna be subject to criticize, because
Yeah.
perfect. I think like the judging was back in the day when you started, Barton. Like my judge, so every judge would say, oh, it was the Barton won or Martin Potter won, and then it was a 3-2 decision, a close decision, or it was a 4-1, or it was a 5-0. So that I think is more easy to relate to. But at the same time, you need really partial and really high level judgment, and that's hard to find, because if the high level judge is going to be somebody that's familiar with the framework, but also a really good surfer. So it's really hard to find. And, I want to say to you, Barton, I don't think the Brazilian storm going to go away for a long time, because we have two factors that's super important. One is we have the numbers. Brazil is like Australia, but with the population of the USA, everybody lives by the coast.
Yeah.
And we all have a wave and pretty warm water and warm weather. And the other thing is now the difference from Flavio and Fabio is that now we have the second generation of
That's true.
with the father of Felipe and so on. Even Charlie Medina, he owns the surf. He's a surfer. So that makes the whole difference in the Brazilian history of surfing. Now we have the sons of surfers, and they're gonna take like when I start surfing on a sport. I didn't surf, he's gonna take me earlier. But now I teach my daughters to surf at age 4. So it's a 10-year head start. So it's a big difference. And this year I think the Brazilian storm is a little bit hurt because And this first half of the season, mostly right, you're going to see like Thiago and Ítalo and Medina, they're going to dominate the second half. Because second half we have Fiji, we have Tahiti, and we have Brazil. So on those conditions, they're definitely favored. Now we're a minority again, but yeah, hopefully we make up the numbers on the challenge series. But yeah, the Brazilian storm is here to stay, I believe. You know? And like Pedro said, the level is really high, so the judging is going to be tight every time because that's the natural selection, right? So after the challenge series, year by year, we get better and better surfers. The Americans are great surfers on that condition that favorite them, you know. So yeah, I think the Brazilian storm is here to stay. And, hopefully, we have Conchianca and Fleet back. So for me, the way I see it this year, Brazilian storm is kind of goofy, you know, and with the first half being all mostly right, makes it hard for us.
That's a good point.
Okay,
You know, with the judging, if I may, what I think the problem is with the judging is that the basis of it needs 5 people to agree to look right.
Yeah.
Right. If someone scores it a 4 and someone scores it an 8, the whole thing looks wrong. So the pressure, and we all know that trying to get 5 people to agree on anything, you're asking for trouble. Right? Yep. If you need 5 people to agree, you're asking for trouble. So that system is flawed from the start. The system is shit to me because it needs 5 people to agree. And if I'm a judge and I'm judging and the guy finishes his ride, what I'm thinking is, what are the other guys going to score it? Where are we going? Not what do I think, but where are we going? So the old system before was 5 judges to 0, 4 judges to 1, or 3 judges to 2. And the judge could have different best 2 rides, but still have the same winner. The judge Rômulo could score at an 8. I could score at a 4 and have different waves as the best 2. We could still have the same winner. We didn't have to keep scale. We didn't have to agree or come close. When in the old system, the judge only did his job deciding the winner, and the 5 judges decided their winners, and you either won 5-0, 4-1, or 3-2, depending on where the judges went. The close heats were the 3-2s. That system is much, much better than the system they use today. And they need to go back to the old system. That new system was designed to put surfing on computers, and it doesn't help the sport. It makes the judge's job super hard. But the old system, if they were to change and go back from this one to the 5-0, 4-1, 3-2 system, the sport would benefit so much just from that, in my opinion.
Okay, can I say something? If we are in the old system, in that heat against Gabriel and John Florence, we have the judge 4 is 13.5 and a 13.5 to tie the heat. The judge 2, 14.5 to judge to tie it again. Okay, and then we have the judge 1, 14.5, a 13.7 to Gabriel, and we have like is a 3-2 for Gabriel in the score sheet. We are the 4-3. Is a 3-2. You know what I mean? And one thing that so many people that watching us here was questioning is, but Barton said that Gabriel lost to Coleman in Bells Beach. He doesn't say that. He just said that Gabriel didn't catch the best wave, his last wave. But I think that Barton think that Gabriel won that heat as well, because they don't score the air that that Gabriel did was the best wave they hit, and they scored 6.3, right? Barton? It's true or not?
Exactly. Because, you know, the thing that I know from watching heats on the screen is it's not the same as watching it live, firstly.
Yep.
There is a difference in watching it through the screen. So it's hard to differentiate this. For me, when I watched Cole Houseman surfing and Gabriel, I thought they both surfed good. I thought they both ripped. And on the waves, on the surfing, I was, you know, I'm such a big Gabriel fan. I've always been a Gabriel fan. He's been my favorite surfer for a very long time. I'm a goofy footer, so I'm biased. But he's like, so when I watch Gabriel, I'm always trying to be aware of my own bias because I really love the way he surfs, the speed, the power, the flow, the way he competes, how determined and dedicated he is to strategy and to doing whatever tactics it takes to win. I love all that. I feel like that's so powerful. But in that particular heat, so what I was saying was when it came to the actual surfing and the quality of the waves surfed, it was hard for me to differentiate really. But when I saw that air, that for me, that was at a point where Gabriel had the two best waves of the heat, was really dominating the heat. When he took that air without priority and took that wave without priority, got the snap, built that speed through the flats and then hucked it into the air, that to me was creative genius. That was turning nothing into something. And that to me was what I loved. I was like, that to me was a 7 minimum and should have gave him the heat win because it was different. It was creative. The surfing, the rest of the surfing, Mark Occhilupo, Luke Egan, Goofy Footers for years have been doing that surfing. It's not that different. It's not that new. It's just on the face normal surfing. When it came to the air that Gabriel did, there's none of us could do that. That was some genius. And
that's
the genius,
a great explanation.
And the genius to me wasn't rewarded. And when people do those things that are creative and under priority, you create an opportunity to get a big score without priority and it's super inconsistent waves. I was like, that's why I love him, mate. And then the score came in. I went, that score did nothing to improve the performance of surfing globally because it told people to do re-entries, not airs. That's what it told them. And so to me, I saw that before when Jadson, Andre, Miguel Pupo, we're going back a decade. They come onto the tour. They're hucking forehand air reverses on closeouts. They're turning waves that are 2s into 10s. And the world didn't like that, mate. The world was like, that ain't cool, mate. You've got to go for old school carves and that type of on the face surfing. In my mind, the judges need to be encouraging people to go mad, to do crazy stuff, as wild as it can be. And that's entertainment to me. So when that score came in at 6-3, I've seen that same situation happen to Jadson, happen to Miggy, happen to Brazilians perhaps doing airs in the past where the only thing it's served to do is stifle performance in my mind. Because that one air, and people go, well, he kind of fell back and laid back on the landing. And that's why the score was what it was. It wasn't a perfect landing, and it needs to be a perfect landing for it to be the score. But to me, that was the most difficult, most complex surfing of the heat, but it wasn't rewarded like that. So I thought he should have won the heat based on the air, and I would have given the air a 7+, and he would have taken the heat. That's how I felt,
Ícaro, can I just translate? Because I know there is a lot of people watching us and they don't speak English, and I want to just explain what Barton was saying. And in the beginning, no começo, o Barton, ele não falou que o Gabriel perdeu a bateria, ele só falou que o velho Gabriel, o Gabriel que entrou no circuito mundial, jamais deixaria o Cole Houseman pegar aquela onda, já que ele tinha prioridade. Mas assim como ele acabou de falar agora, para ele, nitidamente, o aéreo do Gabriel jamais poderia ter sido um 6.3. Ele acabou de falar que o Cole Houseman, o surf que ele fez, o Luke Egan já fazia na década de 80, na década de 90. Ele não fez nada que ninguém faça. Você vai numa praia hoje em dia, você vê um surfista profissional, o cara vai estar dando batida, rasgada, cutback e floater. Mas são poucas as pessoas que vão fazer rotações completas, como o Gabriel fez naquela bateria. Então, assim, como todos nós achamos, o Barton também acha. E ele, mais uma vez, acabou de falar uma coisa importante. Falou que tanto o Miguel Pupo quanto o Jadson André, aí voltando uma década para trás, foram muito prejudicados. Já cheguei a falar sobre isso aqui, que o Jadson, depois que ganhou do Kelly Slater e do Danny Reynolds lá em Ibituba, o Kelly Slater falou que o Jadson era o one trick pony, um cara que só tinha uma manobra no pé. As manobras que eram 8 e 9 começaram a virar 6 e 7. Então, as palavras têm poder, eu concordo. Essas são as palavras do campeão mundial, tá? O que ele está falando. Você tem que engrandecer, exaltar as manobras inovadoras e progressivas, porque isso é a modernidade. Nós estamos em 24. E não voltar 20 anos atrás com batida, cutback e floater. Muito obrigado. Thank you, Barton.
No.
This is true. Barton,
well, for Jadson and Miguel particularly, when I watched, they ended up going back and just doing backhand re-entries and getting the same scores as they would for these crazy airs. Yep. And they went, well, okay, I just need to stay on the wave face and do normal surfing. And that's easier for them. So they're getting more points for easier surfing. So you go, well, I'm going to do the easier surfing and get more points. So that, to me, doesn't encourage the performance of the surfing. Doesn't help it, you know.
And plus, you're not going to break your leg. You're not going to destroy your knees when you do like just off the lip, snap, snap, snap. But when you go 100%. Crazy, you break legs and ankles, and you can destroy your career like this. And I think the judge, they need to think about this too.
I agree. Rômulo, what do you think?
The most important for me always be the most important part of the criteria, which is degree of difficulty, you know. And people that see that cars are harder to do than rotation airs, the criteria of the rotation air. There's so many surfers that never did a rotation, you know. So it comes down. We got to break the criteria and make it simple so everybody understands. And the most important part is the degree of the maneuver. That's the bottom line of the criteria.
Isso. Fala um pouquinho mais perto do microfone do teu aparelho, Rômulo, por favor.
The difficulty of the maneuver. That's what comes down to. And that's the bottom line. You cannot go away from the criteria. The criteria, that's the most important part, always be. So people try to twist it. Barton is absolutely right. An air by itself should be at least 8.
Rominho, a gente não está conseguindo te ouvir, Rominho. Tá? Desculpa, vou ser obrigado a te cortar porque não está dando para entender. I'm sorry, we cannot hear him as well. That well, yeah.
Tá baixo.
One question about like André told us, and this is true, and my question goes for you. When you go to the beach and watch surfing, a normal surfing, how many surfers you watch doing a really good normal turns in a surf, like a practice in the morning? How many? And how many surfers you watch doing a crazy maneuvers like full rotation, landing on the flat section and made it? How is the difference between that?
Yeah, I mean, I can't do it. You know what I mean? I feel like the modern surfing is just, that's the great thing that's saving the sport, is that the athletes and the surfers are so incredible that the administration can do whatever, but the sport still looks good because the surfers themselves are incredible performers. And, surfing, I honestly, for me, I don't feel like I'm good enough to be a judge. Like if they asked me to be a judge, I would honestly say, hey, I'm not good enough. I don't understand the technicality of modern surfing, of the modern aerial surfing enough for me to be confident to be a judge. I can be a commentator. and talk to it. But to judge it, you need to be able to do it, or else
Yep.
you're just guessing as to what is the most difficult and what isn't. You're trying to imagine them and make it up. I think a great example was the John's layback in the final at Margaret River. Remember the big, no, was that in the semi?
Semi, yeah.
Semi, yeah. He did that crazy Clay Marzo-like layback, and the feet come off and he comes out.
Yeah.
That got rewarded.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
In that situation, they rewarded that. In my mind, I was thinking, because sometimes they don't. Sometimes people do that sort of thing and they think it's like a trick. It's like Kelly Slater's carving 360 or whatever, where they kind of
like
just
it.
they don't never like it. Whereas I look at the carving 3 that Kelly does when he does them, and I love it.
Yeah,
I go, wow, that was just such a beautiful way to use that part of the wave in that moment. But because it doesn't fit the criteria in some way, it doesn't get rewarded. And with John's layback, I've seen them not be rewarded too. But in that situation, it was rewarded. And I was like, well, at least that was good because they rewarded the critical nature of it. So I think the judging directs the way the surfers surf. Because if the judges tell you, hey, you don't need to do airs, you just need to do backhand re-entries.
Oh my God.
What are you going to do? Backhand re-entries it is.
Barton, one thing is true. If John surfs,
go to Rômulo. Go to Rômulo because I think he needs to leave. Go to Rômulo.
Okay, Rômulo.
Just one point. That wave, Barton, was special because it was the biggest wave and also the first turn.
First turn, First turn.
Yeah.
That was incredible.
Yeah.
And he finished so I saw him and said, that's a 10 for sure.
Yeah.
And got it right that time. I gotta go. I got a surf lesson to do. So great job. Good to see you guys. Aloha.
Valeu,
Aloha,
Rominho.
mahalo.
Bless you, brother.
Mahalo, Rômulo. Tchau, amigo. Barton, just one thing, Pedro. If John Florence surf against Gabriel like he surfed the same final, nobody will be complaining about anything. No. Do you understand what I'm saying? If he does
that was a 10-point ride. We all knew that.
That's it. Yeah. That's it. This is the point. And I need to ask you something, okay? This is an important question that I will do for you and thinking about the answer. What is your opinion on the change of hands in international surfing from ASP to WSL? In your view, what are the positive points and negative points of this transformation from a surfers association to a private company?
Well, this is a big pool of mud.
But this is you have experience. If you don't want to answer, it's okay. But do you know that we are here to make this clear and try to help the sport? You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I want to answer that, and it's a great question. ASP was owned 50% by the events and 50% by the surfers. So we owned, and that the ASP board had 14 votes, 7 event votes, 7 surfer votes. So the surfers had equal power. We were able to make changes, and I'm not even sure what year it was exactly, but early 90s, we made a big change because the ASP tour, as is remembered, went to a lot of small average waves. Most of the time, right? To small average
summer contests. Summer contests. Most of them was held in summer contests, like small waves during the summer. They want to bring people to the beach.
And create a sport. So the idea was they score waves 1 to 10. You put scaffolding up on the beach. People sit in the scaffolding. They feel like they're at a sporting event, and they would turn surfing into a sport. And this was, and they would go to city locations to do this. Huntington, Rio, Bondi, all of those, which are very average waves. But people loved that sport and that time in the sport because it was competitive. It was best four ways. So in a heat, a man-on-man heat, you're going to watch 8 waves surfed minimum, right? So then when the ASP wouldn't listen to the surfers, so we conducted a coup where we ended up sacking the president, Peter Burness, and the CEO, Graham Cassidy, and we put in surfer-friendly administration. And I was largely responsible for that coup. That was kind of my orchestration. I conducted that coup. What we needed, we knew we had 7 surfer votes. And what we needed to change the administration of the ASP is one of those regional areas of ASP to come with us. There was ASP Australia, South Africa, Europe, America, Brazil, Europe, and Japan. So they were the 7. I went to Portugal and Roberto Portugal, and I said, hey, this is what we're thinking. We're thinking we're going to change the sport. We're going to get rid of the president. We're going to get rid of the CEO. No one knows this is going to happen, but we need one region to come with us so we know we've got 8 votes, right? And Brazil, Portugal, no one really knows this, right? Portugal goes, we're with you. We'll vote with you. And I knew that we had the 8 votes. So Brazil was instrumental in that administration change. And that's, we put Graham Stapleberg in as an interim CEO to mind the job while we wanted to advertise it and get someone big and good to come in. As a result of that change, when we sacked the administration, put the new administration in, the companies then realized, Quicksilver, Rip Curl, Billabong, and the saying goes like the lunatics are running the asylum, was kind of like this, you know, where the surfers were running the sport. We had the power. And when the vote came down, it was 13-1. So every region bar one went with us, with the surfers. And we changed the sport at that point in time. And that was the start of the Dream Tour. That change in administration was so that we could go to good waves and we could see the multimedia age coming. And we knew that we didn't need the crowds on the beach because we could beam the pictures out to the world and we could go to great waves and show them the sport as it really could be. And Brazil was instrumental in that. But then what happened when the companies saw the opportunity, they started to rally their sponsored surfers. And for us, the surfers to do anything after that was really difficult to get all the surfers to come together. Because many of the surfers were influenced by their sponsors.
They cannot say no or they will be out.
Exactly. And so at that point in time, that's when I sort of backed down and went, you know what, I ain't winning this thing. I was at the end of my career. I had no sponsors and I needed to win heats to eat and to feed my family and to go and I knew my retirement was only a few years away. So at that point in time, I walked away from the ASP board and resigned. Then I watched it from afar and the surfers gave away the 50% ownership of the sport that they had for more prize money. They gave it away to private industry, to a private business and sold the sport out. I personally don't like it. I feel like they messed up, mate. They should have kept control of that sport and the surfers should have maintained 50% ownership of that. And it's a valuable, valuable thing that they would have had in their hands. So I really didn't like that at all. I found it offensive and I found it short-sighted. They're just thinking money in the short term, you know? And so then when WSL came on, I think in recent times, we've all seen the sport behave in ways that has a political narrative to it or a political undertone to it. And the sport now being in the hands of private ownership means that our culture and our sport is kind of being used for those reasons at times. I mean, I don't know why I lost my job as a commentator. I was never told why. I was just never spoken to again.
I know.
the phone-
I know why. I know
Me
why.
too.
Well,
Me
because
too.
you
And
were
we know
telling-
why.
Because you were telling the truth, and they don't want to. They don't want the truth. That's the reality. That's a fact.
and that could be the reality. And I really don't like seeing surfing used as a political tool and seeing surfing being used for politics that are so distant from the culture's integrity and what our
Yeah.
culture stands for: freedom, individuality, creativity, those elements of life that are so important to me. And so there were the culture that's why everyone was attracted to it, not because we were all lawyers and doctors wearing suits and ties. They were attracted because we were on the sidelines, out in the left field, living a dream life, doing these crazy things, being surfers, because it was a almost rebellious thing that we were doing.
Rebels against the system. Yeah.
And you see that in snowboarding, you see that in skateboarding, and when you see surfing now, you don't see much of it anymore.
No.
You know what I mean? That's kind of been taken out of surfing a lot, and it's lost a lot of its integrity, its culture, its personality.
Yeah.
As a professional sport, it's incredible. And again, the athletes and the surfers and what the core of that thing is has never been better. They're the best. Like, it's never been so incredible. The stuff we see, the waves they ride, the way they ride them.
Yeah.
You got to take your
Their
hat off
heads
because
off.
they're so good, mate.
Mind blowing.
The surfers. But I'm not such a fan of watching it be used as a political football.
Yeah,
Yes,
you're right.
exactly.
You're right. Yeah.
I remember pretty clear, like the best waves for the best surfers by Wayne Rabbit Bartholomew, like ASP president. Like, remember that?
Yeah.
That's it. That's the real surfer. That was the time. But like you said, once I was in Gold Coast, and then a few of the surfer representatives was sponsored by Quicksilver, by Ripco, and then cannot put their voice on or they will be fired. And then that time, the best guys from ASP was fired because they want to fight against the system. And this is something. And now we have a dark cloud in the sport. That's what I am feeling. Something is not clear. We don't know why and how we can do better to make these things back to normal. I will go to the next step now, a different question. What do you think, Barton, about the system that WSL uses right now? What are you thinking about the cut in the middle of the year after 5 events for 5 states and you cut? And I will complement this question, okay? How can we have the cut when you have 2 events in Hawaii, 1 event in Europe, and 2 events in Australia, and then you have, for example, like 2 massive waves for the right render, Sunset Beach and Margaret River. And we have 1 left, that's Pipeline. That can be right, like a backdoor. Sometimes we surf only backdoor, 3 rights. And then you go to 1 wave in Europe, that's a beach break, but it can be left or right. And then you have another Bells Beach, right?
Yeah.
How can Gabriel beat a regular footer, for example, in Margaret River, if the judge reward only layback? How can you do 1 layback in the backhand?
No, laybacks and carves. Laybacks and carvings. Laybacks and carving.
Yeah, but the major turn is a layback there. This is what the judges are rewarding. Okay? How they don't thinking about give a really good score for 1 backhand for Gabriel upside down in the pocket. That is nobody do that. You know what I mean? It's not everybody do that as well. And then this is what I'm asking you. What are you thinking about this cut? This is right. You think that this can change? What can be after 7 stop or 8? What's your opinion about it?
So I want to see your opinion. So I want to go 3, 2, 1, and then we either go thumbs up or thumbs down. Okay, each of us. We see about the cut. Okay. 3, 2, 1. The cut.
That's it.
We don't need to say much.
I hate the cut.
We have to cut.
I feel like you spend your life, a long time. They say by the time you've spent 10 years, by the time you're 20, focusing, trying to build a life, build a career, and they give you 5 events to try to do. And the first one's pipeline, the hardest one of all.
Yeah.
You know, so I don't like the cut, and I feel like it's disrespectful because what it does is creating headlines out of people's heartbreak. Right? Sammy and Miguel.
Yeah.
Heartbreak. It's a heartbreak situation where someone's heartbroken.
It was.
WSL likes it because it creates headlines. And I don't like creating headlines out of people's heartbreak. That's so uncool to me. So the cut, I think that would have to go. I thought the tour was doing really good before all that.
Exactly.
And then we have guys like
Pedro.
We have guys like Jacob Wilcox, phenomenal surfer, is been trying to find a spot in the championship tour for, I don't know, 10 years. And then when he made it, he's out. Half of the year he's out, and he's an incredible surfer. It's so unfair for me. That's especially for the rookies, it's so unfair.
I think that one of the most sadness picture and views that I have in my entire life about surfing competition was that hit in the end of that hit between Miguel and Sammy, because that how Sammy like cry, how this is not health for the sport. I'm sorry, I cannot. How we see watch Luana, how we saw India Robinson. Okay,
all of them.
2 years ago,
all of them.
Years ago, she cannot go to Gold Coast to compete, and she need to be at home to try to recover herself. This is not right. Somebody need to tell those guys, man, this is not right for the sport, for the athletes and everything. You know what I mean, Barton?
Well, no, I agree 100%. I think it's just kind of rude. It's cheap. It's cheap headlines. It's a good way to get headlines and create some interest mid-year. That you know, and then there's so I don't like. Pipeline is the perfect place. Okay, let's ask this one: thumbs up, thumbs down.
Oh,
Pipeline
I know what's coming.
Pipeline to start the year.
Down.
Pipeline to finish the year.
Yeah.
The world's on the pipeline. Yeah. So the surfers know, mate. You know, the surfers know. Finishing a pipeline is a beautiful thing. And to imagine that you could turn your back on all of that history, all of that culture, all of that time that surfing and pipeline have meshed together to be this amazing thing, to turn your back on that and go, well, it'd be better at lower trestles is some form of craziness, mate. It's a craziness. So, you know, there's a lot of those changes in the WSL time.
You're right.
That to me don't make sense. I suppose what they're trying to do is find a business model with surfing that works for them. And that's their obligation. You know, it's their money. It's their thing. So they're obliged to try and make it work for them. But surfing is a kind of niche sport, right? It's not the mainstream thing. It's a niche thing. So you need to look after your grassroots and respect the people who are you. And from that base of respect and appreciation and good energy, people are loving pro surfing at the core. It's going to grow and flourish. But if at the core people are all disillusioned and not that happy and doubting and questioning, it's going to stunt its growth, I think. But
how we can accept, we like surfers, professional surfers, we live this for more than 4 decades, right? How can we imagine one day in our life that they will cut the Triple Crown?
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy.
A lot of people still talk about it here too. And you know, the other thing, that this is a good example of them not thinking about the bigger picture. So here, normally here, the tour was over by Christmas. They'd come, they'd done their 3 events. It's over by Christmas on a calendar year. It's so neat and perfect. And then the locals have January, February, March to surf their waves. And there's the odd events around, but the world tour and those tens of thousands of people that come at that time, it's done by Christmas. Now they still have the events prior to Christmas, Haleiwa, the Pipeline Masters. There's still that. So that still exists in December. Now those tens of thousands of people come in late January, February, and the off season is another on season, and the Hawaiian season, it goes November, December, February, March. It just keeps going. And so that's really an inconsiderate situation. They're thinking about themselves and what they want to do rather than thinking about even the locals of Hawaii and what might be best for them, in that situation. So I think a lot of the decisions talk to them being desperate and wanting to create something new and wanting to find a way to make money out of it. And maybe so far it's, the surfing's saving them. That's what's happening.
Yes, you are right. Pedro, something Pedro Muller.
Now I was just talking about the guys that missed the cut and how sad it was. For Keith Madison especially, it was really hard. He lost in a very tight heat with Italo Ferreira, and then he missed the opportunity to compete the whole year. I mean, it's really hard for everybody. And I agree totally with Barton. They have to think about money, the financial side of the business. But like one more year at Trestles, it's going to be hard. They could, even if they keep the system like the final five, they should have it in another place, in another kind of way. I don't know, but I don't like it.
You're right. Yeah, there is so many good ways around the world. Why Trestles again? It's an airwave. You can do thirds too, but it's so soft. There is no emotion there. It's like everything's the same pretty much.
And we've seen Felipe winning world titles without doing airs. One of the best aerialists. He'll win his world titles without even doing an air there. So it doesn't really. It's the idea of it being a performance surfing wave is true, but and it has its spot on the tour. But as the final culmination, the end of year venue where it just doesn't have the punch to make anyone really get excited. And then when the world tour finishes, then we go to the Challenger Series. And for 4 months, like from September on or whatever it is, there's no WSL, no CT circuit. There's nothing. And there's all this other tour going on. And you go, well, if I wasn't a surfer, I'd be like, oh, is this the real tour? What was that thing earlier in the year? Is that something else? Like it's a very confused presentation of the sport.
Yes, it is.
It's so confused to understand what they really want about all of this system that they use. You know what I mean? We doesn't know, to be honest for you, if they create all of those systems. Like I think that the first one, we talk about this when we do our comments in the surf events from WSL. Okay, that the first guy to understand, the surfer from Brazil that understand that the judges start cutting the innovation and progressive maneuvers, okay, and counting number of maneuvers and quality of number of maneuvers and maybe combination of maneuvers back into the 80s, okay, was Felipe Toledo in that event in 2021 in Margaret River when he won in the rail. And Felipe Toledo Felipe and John Florence have the two guys that have the most beautiful rail turns in the tour, in my opinion. Right? But Felipe get that, and then he said, okay, this is what you want, this is what I will do. And then he has 2 world titles, right?
Yeah.
But my question is, do you think that the judges or the system cut the innovation and progressive maneuvers to cut the Brazilians for us doesn't have any more Brazilian world champion and give the chance for Australians and Americans that know much of that surfers have this like I said joker in your hands to play, your card that you can do. Okay, the waves is bad. I did 9 points. I can get one bad wave and make one huge air and have the 9.5. What are you thinking about this? Is the system? How is the future of the sport, in your opinion, about this situation?
Yeah, it's a very good question again, Ícaro. We're all influenced by things,
Yes.
right? By and the stimuli of our environment, the wind changes, the trees blow, someone walks by, everything influences the way you feel.
Yep.
As a competitor, your job was to understand all of those things influencing you so you could control them, right? I remember going up to the judges and going, hey, I want to talk to you about the influences and you guys being influenced. And the judge said to me at the time, we're not influenced, Barton. And I went, well, and he goes, we're not influenced. I go, well, you're human. You're not a robot, are you? You're influenced.
Yeah.
But when someone tells you that they're not influenced, you know that they're not, their awareness is not so sharp. They don't know what they're doing because they don't think they're being influenced, but I know they are. We're all being influenced. So the number one job of a judge is to understand the influences and understand the impact of those influences on you and not let it influence your judgment, right? And have your judgment stay true without your emotions getting involved, without things happening. It's most probably the hardest thing ever to do.
Yeah.
Yes.
And especially the hardest, it's hard to not be influenced. We all are influenced, good and bad. And so I used to manipulate the judges to get scores. And there'd be heats there would be heats where I would lose, and I knew they expected me to come and whinge. But I wouldn't go that time. And I wouldn't go up there. And then there'd be a time when I go, I just got ripped, and I knew they didn't think so. And I go up then. But my job was to manipulate the judges so I got the best scores I could get.
Okay.
Right? And that happens in the conversations you have with a judge after a close heat. You know what I mean? Your job almost was to make them feel guilty and make them at least think about the situation so that next time they might go, oh yeah. And you get the 0.5 more because they feel guilty about the last time or whatever, right? And this is a human thing. It's not to say it's nothing bad about the person's judging. And I know most of those guys judging, and I know they're not doing anything except trying to do their best job. They're not deliberately, in my mind, doing corrupt things to get results to suit the business of WSL. I can't allow myself to think that to be the case. What I think is that there's influences from administration, from WSL, from media, from social media, from everywhere around the surfing space. There's influence. And if you're not onto it, you can be influenced and not even know it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, you're right.
Sometimes, and then for me, I look at Gabriel, and I've said this for a long time, Gabriel's role, he's part in the circus. You go to the circus and there's the skinny guy juggling and the guy with the lion tamer guy, and then there's the bad guy, and there's all the characters in a circus, right?
Yep.
In the WSL circus, Gabriel's the bad guy. He's the Dark Knight. He's the bad guy in that circus. I don't know that anyone would want to be the dark guy because in my mind, it's going to make your job harder. And I'd say to people that what Gabriel needs to do is concentrate on his public relations, on his marketing, get to the favela, have the cameras, be the nice guy, and change his image so that people want him to win. Because if people don't want you to win, even without it being with no obvious corruption, right? Just if people don't want you to win, it's harder to win because that energetic field is negative. And so Gabriel played the Dark Knight, the bad guy role for a long time. That's been his position. And he never cared. He never changed. He just did his thing. Because he's so strong in himself, he doesn't care what the others think. He's just doing his job as best he can. But in doing your job, you have to think of all the other bits around your surfing that influence the way people see you and your surfing.
I agree. Yeah, makes totally sense. But at the same time, I truly believe that WSL create Gabriel to be what he is.
Exactly.
WSL was responsible to sell Gabriel as a bad guy, not as a good guy. The good guy was John. The good guy always was John. And the bad guy was Gabriel. And that's not truth. I've been living over here so long in US, and people, they hate Gabriel. And sometimes they ask me, hey, you know, who's a nice guy on tours? Like Gabriel Medina's like, are you joking? Gabriel is not a punk. I was like, no, he's cool. He's really nice, like Philippe. But again, when you go against him, he wants to take your head off. That's part of competition. But I think the company sold him as a bad guy, but he's not a bad guy at all. The problem is the company, because John was the hero and Gabriel was the bad guy, and I don't agree with this, because I think Gabriel Medina, he's an awesome guy too, but he's a competitor, and I'm pretty sure Barton Lynch, such a nice guy, super cool, but I don't want to have a hit against you in the 80s, because I'm pretty sure you want to beat me so bad.
And another thing,
that's competition.
I know, and I know one thing, Barton, you just said in the beginning in our interview, if Gabriel was 5 years ago, Cole Horseman never get that wave. This is what WSL create, and this was how Gabriel was indeed in now his career. He's a hunter wave. He run this way, that way, get this wave, that one, and that other one, right? And this was 100%. Creating WSL and the judge. They change a lot of rules in the surfing judging and priorities and position and everything, because Gabriel, to try to block him.
I wanna sorry about that. I wanna, just because it's in my mind right now, and that's a good question for Barton. If you were Gabriel, because I truly believe they took it at least 2 world titles from him already. Imagine it, your mental health. Imagine the mental health of Gabriel Medina, man. That guy must be like solid inside, because I don't remember how many times that guy was going down because of the judge, not because of his surfing. And you know that too. So imagine you being on his shoes, you know, in your time, like fighting, you like one of the best goofy footers ever, because he's already like one of the best goofy footers ever, right? But imagine it, having the ability to win in every type of conditions, but you always feel like then you go against something bigger than your opponent.
Yeah. You know, it's for me, I remember back, because, you know, you imagine in my day, I had Tom Carroll, Tom Curran, Mark Occhilupo, the top 3, Rip Curl, Quicksilver, Billabong. And then, you know, everybody else below that, you know, Damien Hardman, Gary Elkin, and Derek Ho, on and on and on, like an incredible generation. And Rabbit Bartholomew said to me one day, he said, BL, you've just got to write yourself into the script. Right? And I've never imagined the concept of an event. You go into an event and there's not a literal script, like a movie script, but there's ideas of what the script will be. Margaret River, John.
Yeah.
Right? 100%.
Yeah.
You know, the script, the way Ethan Ewing has written himself into the script is amazing. You know, like he is wanted to succeed.
Yeah.
They love what he does and they want him to succeed. So when Rabbit told me that, I'm sitting there thinking, how do I write myself into the script when I'm against, you know, many of the very, you know, Tom, Curran, Carroll, and Occhilupo will be remembered forever. It's like Sean Thompson, Rabbit Bartholomew, Mark Richards. A generation seems to have the ability to remember about 3 people. You know, and so I'm thinking, how do I write myself into this script? How do I do that? And I went, you know what? I thought to myself, I'm the only one who can talk. The other guys, they would do an interview, and a lot of the time the public would sit there and think, well, that's what I thought surfers were like. And it wasn't really, you know, it wasn't really helping surfing, because there wasn't an ability to communicate surfing to the world. And I had that. And I remember thinking, That's why they need me. They need me because I can talk the sport up. I can help them grow this sport. And when Rabbit told me that, and I figured my lane, and I knew I created a reason why they needed me.
Yep.
So the answer is I was playing the game on a level that Gabrielle isn't or hasn't. You know what I mean? I was being aware of the politics, aware of all of the stuff, and going, how do I play the politics as well? How do I make the politics work for me as well? And so I was a gnarly competitor too. I'd paddle over you, around you, whatever it took to win. And that's where my respect for Gabby comes in, is that he goes, mate. He doesn't half try. He's 100% all in, gives everything he's got. That's what I want to watch. I don't care whether they're the good guy or the bad guy. I'm not buying that bullshit. You know what I mean? I just want to see someone who's all in. But in reality, and in a social media world, and you know, they say, like, for example, in cryptocurrencies, you can follow the trend on Google Trends of cryptocurrencies, and when the trend and people start talking about something, the price goes up. And you're following, so you can follow the trends to actually know what the price is going to do because of the energy that people are having. And surfing's a very energetic thing, and a subjective sport is an energetic thing, and energy influences the way we see things. So I was always aware of that. Look, not always, but from a young age, I was aware of the vulnerability of judges, the political nature of things, and the necessity to play the game on a multitude of levels. It wasn't just surfing and competing that was going to win it. So that and in the same way, that's why I, in a way, have respected Gabby so much too, because he hasn't changed. He don't care. He ain't playing. I had to play to eat. He don't care, mate. He's doing his thing, and that's a powerful place to be able to be you and just stay in your lane and do your things because you believe in yourself so much that you don't have to play the bullshit. I didn't have that faith. I had to play the bullshit to get there. You know what I mean? So that's how I answer that question. Is, you know, there's a lot of things that go into the way a judge sees things, and there's all the influences and all the emotion and all the stuff.
That's a good point.
And part of a competitor's job is to get all that other stuff, energetic things, moving their way. For me, the great example is Stephanie Gilmore. Like, Stephanie Gilmore got points maybe easier than anyone I've ever seen get points. To be honest,
I agree.
I agree too.
But it was all the other stuff that got her the points. Right.
I think that the way 6 again.
It was all that other stuff that made her so popular, and the scores became easy because of all the other stuff. And
she was likable. She was likable.
And she fitted the image and the marketing and everything. And then the way she rides a wave is just beautiful.
Of course,
And so I felt like she was a great example. Sort of, if Gabrielle's an example in one direction, I felt like Steph was an example in the other direction, where what she had, her assets, her energy, who she was, and what she brought to it, made people want to give her scores. People wanted her to win, and they would see a 6 when it was a 4. And it might be the opposite. Might be the opposite for Gabby, where they see a 6 when it's an 8.
I think it is the opposite for him. You know, like I'm not a super good friend with Nat Young. He's from Santa Cruz over here. And he told me like a long time ago, then he had this conversation with Parco. They were at Fiji. And Parco told him, you know, that every wave from Gabriel should be 2 points higher. That's Joe Parkinson's opinion, you know, in the conversation with Nat Young. And I agree, man. Gabriel Medina, like if you look back 10 years ago, he was already like so much better than all those guys. And I love Mick and I love Parco too, but Gabriel, he was doing spinnings in the air, right? And took like many years for the judge to accept those type of surfing because they still love Parco and Kelly and Taj and Mick. You know, and then Gabriel came and then Philippe came. So it took like a little while for them to figure out, wow, these guys are in a different level, right? And that was Parco, not myself saying anything, you know, Parco and Nat Young, like 2 great surfers, right?
Interesting, eh?
Yeah, and we have on this, like, we are almost ending our life. We have like so many hits that we have a controversy. It's not only with Brazilians.
Exactly.
We can talking about this if you guys want, and I will start for a few ones that is not against Brazilians, but what the system is. I will make this question, okay, just in the end of our life. It would be possible for Brazil to have more than 7 world titles if it weren't for these crucial errors of judgment. Would Gabriel Medina be prevented from having more world titles? Would Brazilians be the ones most penalized for judge errors? And another question: would the referees be protecting themselves due to the subjectivity factor, or would it be on purpose what they do? You know what I mean? Because sometimes I hear, oh, but surfing is subjective. But if you know the criteria, if you have the criteria, the subjects just disappear, basically, you know? And I will put a few examples, like Conor O'Leary and John Florence in J-Bay 2022. Do you guys remember that?
No.
It's like...
Ícaro. So I don't want to, because I completely agree with Barton. The way this live is going, I think the energy over here, it's like so much better right now between four of us. I don't feel like that I want to go back like 2, 3, 4 years ago, because that's only like speculation for us. We are not going to change anything. That's the reality. We are not going to change anything. It is what it is. If John won or Conor O'Leary won, it's already done, right? We cannot do anything about this. And even with Gabriel, Philippe, you name it, John or Ethan Ewing, what we can say, it's like it's just between us over here, because the results are there. And I know, and another thing too, this is only like my opinion, Pedro's opinion, Barton's opinion, and Ícaro's opinion. We are not going to change the system at all. So if we're talking about this, it's only like a speculation. We would just speculate everything, right? I think we should just focus on stories and more present than past. And I think like the past, like maybe Margaret River, that's a good point, because it was only like a few days ago. But I go back 2 years, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, man, this is already in the past. We can't live our life in the past. The past will hurt us. That's the reality. We got to move on. We got to move on. And this is the energy over here is too good to go back there. That's the way that I feel. I'm sorry.
I agree. The thing that I think, if we go to the surface, like if you go down outside of the sport and the media and the world, and you go to the surface, they don't have the problems with each other.
No, never.
Right? You know what I mean? Like the Brazilians, the Australians, all of them surfers all respect each other. They all get on really good. The problems that we're talking about that with the judging or with administration, they don't necessarily happen with the surfers themselves.
No.
The surfers all have respect for each other. We don't care what nationality someone is, or what color their skin is, or what religion they are, or what, these things that are turned into something in the outside world, or a difference between us and a reason we should not like them or like each other. You know what I mean? So for me, I feel like the more Brazil as a nation buys into the fact that they're getting hard done by, perhaps the more hard done by you get. And as a nation, or as a collective energy that is so vibrant, so positive, so it's got that energy to it, Brazil. I think that would be my message for Brazil, is to not take it personally. This is just a game, mate. Professional surfing is a game. And the games are riddled by human error and humanness, just the humanness and the fragility of humanness. And so for Brazil, the last thing you want are your surfers to be judged harshly because of the opinions of the nation.
Yeah.
and the
you're
way
right.
the nation sees it, right?
You're right.
And you can energetically change things just through your language. Like I could never wake up early, right? I hate because of that morning that I woke up hearing my mum crying, right? And waking up to my mum's and my dad's death and my mum's tears. Every day for the rest of my life for a long time, getting up in the morning was a chore, mate. I hated mornings. I couldn't get up early. I would lie there till 10, 11 o'clock. I just couldn't get up because I was paralyzed by the emotion of that moment.
Wow.
And what I needed to do to myself is change my language and go, hey, maybe I can get up early. Maybe I could even like mornings. And all of a sudden, mornings were a different thing because of the way I looked at them, the way I communicated about them with myself.
Yep.
And so Brazil has the energy and the power to influence the future of Brazilian surfing by the way they look at the situation. And if the focus is on the negative and we're always hard done by, because that's what the rest of the world's saying, even about Gabby. Like I hear him get up there and say it, and I'm so happy that someone's got the courage to say exactly what they think. You know what I mean? Again, hold back and doesn't go, oh, well, he just tells it like it is. But that courage is a wonderful thing. But for you don't want the world to be just going, he's just a whinger. He's going to whinge every time he loses, and he's going to blame the judges for every heat he lost. And all he had to do was use his priority and not let Cole get that last wave he wins the league. He's a whinger. That's what people are saying, right? And when the world's saying that, your job all of a sudden is a lot harder. And so Brazil as a nation has the potential to be viewed like that because of their dislike for the results that they've experienced. But if you were trying to get to the top, you can't think about that last result. As Andre said, you can't worry about the ones that have gone. You got to be in that present moment, putting all of your energy in there cleanly, beautifully, and be there going, today though, with the hope for right now. Because I see people saying those things about Brazil, about Gabriel, and the fact that it's just whinging, it's complaining, they're bad sports because they can't take the losses. And I feel like a lot of the time I'm kind of in the middle a little bit because I can see that side and I can see the Brazilian side because I kind of feel the same way. I understand what you're saying. I feel it. I've watched it myself all the way back to the Gadauskas one that we started to talk about at Lowers all them years ago. That was one of the first times I went, wow, that he just got smoked.
What? What? That's the most famous. What?
Yeah.
Okay. One thing. Do you know why?
So just to finish on that. So I feel like the job of the nation is to not let them get you, not let them make you negative, not let them drive you to that place where you feel hard done by, where you feel like they're ripping you off. That's what they're trying to do. If there's an agenda, it's to drag you down, not lift you up. And so that's me as an individual speaking. That's how I try to deal with those situations. I become aware of it. I understand it. But then I try to take my energy out of it and not let them get me, not let them drag me down because I'm not, it's just a moment in time and the new moments can be different depending on how my energy is. And so I feel like for Brazil, the future is going to be determined by the nation's energy as much as any individual. And the nation's energy, while I know them one way, the public of the world, through the media and the way things are portrayed, they get to know you a different way. Like the surfers don't have anything. They love Gabby. They love Brazilians, love Americans, love it. There's that, that camaraderie between the nations on tour. The fighting doesn't actually exist on tour.
No, between them.
But it exists out in the world. And if it exists out in the world, then it's going to influence the tour. So if we can change what happens out in the world and what is energetically happening out in the world, maybe that changes as a results even, through its energetic influence.
That's why we have you over here to have like a completely different, perspective too. It's really important too. I truly believe in energy too. And you're completely right. But, because you've been in Brazil so many times and we have so many passion, right, about everything. But also this passion can go super down, super negative, right? But of course, when we are winning, it's super positive, 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 positive. And when we are losing, it's negative, 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 negative. So we need to be careful with this energy. You're completely right. I agree.
Yeah.
Okay.
And didn't Brazil have that in football too?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
There was a period of down years, where it wasn't.
Yeah. And right now it's really down for since I think the World Cup in Brazil, the energy for soccer, it's like super down. Super down.
Okay. Do you guys know why I was talking about and I asking about if you guys remember a few hits? It's not to putting down or back in the past, but the thing is, you know what I mean? The things coming one by after another one until we came to the event in Bells Beach and Margaret River, right? With a lot of controversy. My question is, will not be more healthy for the WSL if they get and put the judge beside WSL and create one judge like a side, not partner of WSL, but independent judges that WSL just pay. Okay, I hired you guys, but you have your independent judge, commissioner member, committee member, or something that they aside of WSL, because now what I hear from you, Barton, with a lot of respect, and I think that you guys need to understand this, is like we cannot make the judge's mistake a Gabriel's mistake, because Gabriel doesn't need to get that small wave because he never think that the guy will turn the hit because he has one air that showed me over 7.5 and was 6.3. This is a judge's mistake. It's not Gabriel's mistake. Right? And we cannot make one mistake in the top of another mistake. If the judge was beside WSL, nobody would blame WSL for the mistakes, but the judge by themselves. Do you understand what I say? Makes sense what I'm saying or not?
Of course, but again, this is only speculation, Ícaro.
We are trying to create something.
No, we who? It's the company. It's not we. It's them.
We put the ideas.
Ideas. They don't. Do you think they're really listening to us, Ícaro? Of course not, man. Come on.
I don't think so, but we are doing. We are trying to do our part.
It's them. It's them. Over here, we will just speculate things. Yes, we can have an opinion. I can give my opinion. I think that's a great point of view. Yes, for sure. But what about them? That's a question they need to answer, not us. That's the reality, not us. We don't have power. We don't have the power.
Yeah, the surfers give the power and they stole his 50%.
Yeah.
Like Barton said.
Exactly.
It's a big mistake.
There's no power anymore. So what do you think, Pedro? Pedro is quiet. Let's go.
Yeah, Pedro.
I think even if they hire a company to judge besides WSL, it's going to be judging anyway. The guys who commit the same mistakes, or it's going to be, won't be different. It's really hard. It's pretty hard, but I totally agree with Barton. The thing is, Gabriel goes to hits always like a favorite, and every time he lost, Brazilians complained. He was, I don't know, bad judgment and everything, but he had to accept sometimes. We have to accept sometimes that he lost.
Yep.
And I think even in Cole Hodgman's hits, he was underscore on that air, but Cole Hodgman was underscore on his second wave. He had a 6.2, and he deserved more than that. It was a pretty bad judgment on the whole hits, not only against Gabriel.
Yeah.
I know they should get more score, a better score, but Cole Hodgman was bad score as well. Second wave of Cole Hodgman was a pretty bad score, had a pretty bad score as well. And that's what happens in surfing. Sometimes we just have to accept, see what we can do better next time. And I don't know.
Yeah.
Remember when first years of Gabriel with End King, he changed completely his attitude. He was a completely different guy, and he won his third world title with that behavior, not hassling for hits in the beginning of hits and everything. He believed in his surfing, and things happened to him.
Yep.
And I think that's the way he should be on the next contest.
But he's way more mature now, way more mature. He's older, and he's more mature. And I truly believe the way he presented himself to the world right now, it's way more likable. In the beginning, he was really aggressive. Yes. And now he's more mature. He's older, and he has like 3 world titles. So he doesn't have anything to prove to anyone anymore. That's the truth, right? And I agree with Pedro, man. It's going to be like this. It doesn't matter if we have like a new association just for the judges. I believe they will make mistakes as well. They are humans. Nobody's perfect. I'm not perfect. No, none of us are perfect. That's the reality,
Do you guys think that the artificial intelligence can be one of the ways for judge surfing in the future?
For me,
what are you guys
it's
thinking about?
No. Please, no technology. Please, no.
It's a
don't go this way.
question.
No,
I
don't,
do like this as well. The computer will have the feeling to pedal in the fucking 8 to 10 feet into a hoop and say, "Oh my God, what I'm doing here? What I do now?" Right?
Yeah. My mind goes, well, one, when we think about surfing, like let's think about how a score happens for a judge. Like when I'm doing that, I've judged the backdoor shootout for the last 3 years as a judge. So I've been in that hot seat. And in that event, all the waves, the first wave on day 1 to the last wave, all have to make sense together because they're comparing all of the rounds, all of the waves, all of the days, all comparing together. So it's a mind fuck, mate, as they would say. It's a really
good memory.
But when I was a kid, Mark Richards won 4 world titles. And I remember the talk around was that he was kind of boring and they needed someone new. He was great for a while because he spoke so well and he was a great representative of the sport. But then it sort of felt like, and the talk was that we needed something new, something fresh, something exciting. And Tom Carroll was the choice. Tom Carroll was the guy coming through, and he won his 2 world titles after that. The first year he won his world title, he won all of the finals. He won on 3-2 judges' decisions, right? And he was, when I was a young kid, I was like, look, that's who they want. And then after a couple of years of Tom Carroll, they're like, we need an American world champion. That's what we need for the sport to grow. So there's always, back to the script, there's always been these underlying scripts of what's good for the sport and what the sport may need out of its champion. And the American world champion came and they got what they wanted there. So it's and when I say they, I don't say they as anyone. It's just kind of like an energetic thing. But once it starts getting talked about, it's really hard to change because the energy of it's taking it that way. So for me, I watch a wave ridden, I watch it, right? And then I feel something and a number pops into my head. I haven't thought about it. I don't analyze it. I don't calculate anything. I just feel it. I watch it. I feel it. I go, that was a 7.5. Right? Then a replay will come on and I'll watch it and I'll either go, well, I could have, and I might change a little bit based on the first feeling. But the first number is a feeling. It's got I don't even think they could have any criteria. I don't even know what the criteria is. Whatever. With good surfing, it's good surfing. When you see it and you feel it, it moves you, and then a number pops into your head. Like John's 10. I bet all of us, at first I was like, that's a 9+. And then I went, actually, that's a 10. You know what I mean? But I think as a collective, we know what good surfing is. This adherence to a criteria that is a bunch of words for dancing on a wave. And you go, dancing on a wave is going to be judged this way by doing this and by doing that and by doing this. Dancing on a wave is judged by how you feel and what it makes you feel. And then the number pops and then you got your judge. So the whole adhering to criteria and the judging and all of that stuff to me is kind of looked at a little from the wrong perspective. To me, it's a performance art. What I think is an 8, you could think is a 4, and that's okay. That's why the old system's better.
Yeah.
Because I pick my winner, you pick. We'd be the 5 judges, and we could all have different best 2 rides, but still have the same winner. We could have different highs and different lows because of what we appreciated and respected and what it made us feel good. And we could score it differently, but we could still have the same winner because we're not comparing. The system is the flaw, not the judges themselves, not the people, but the system that makes them have to agree to look right. So they're thinking about the wrong stuff anyway. You know, they're not thinking about how it made me feel and why I liked it. And so for me, to fix the judging, you go back to the old system, 5-0, 4-1, 3-2. You get the 5 best judges that WSL's money can buy, the highest ranked. And for me, I'd put Shane Dorian in there. I'd have CJ Hobgood.
Josh Kerr.
Ross Williams.
Yeah.
No, Ross Williams champions team Jaws. He's good.
Those guys who can do it. You know, those guys who can do it and understand it.
But you need a air guy over there too. You can't put only old school surfers. That's why I said Josh Kerr, because he knows and he does every single type of air. So he knows how the difficulty, you know, like how difficult it is to do certain airs. And I feel like in the judge right now, because I know most of them too, and those guys are more like old school surfers, so they don't know.
One question.
Well, I don't know.
Barton, one thing. How many times we was watching surfing, even judging, say, "Oh my God, this guy get the wave with scoring potential to surf like 8 or 9 and surf 5," and the other side said, "Oh my God, the guy get this wave, man, scoring potential to be 5 points, and he surf 8.5, right?"
Yeah,
this is the feeling, right?
Yeah,
we know that.
And you think about it, the more waves you count, so we used to be best 4, then we went to best 3, and now best 2. The less waves you count, the more important wave selection is.
Yes. Yep.
Right? The more waves you count, the less important wave selection is.
That's true.
Because you're riding more waves, and it's not only about the best ones, it's about, so I feel like they should go to best 3 waves, not best 2. And make it surf more, we see more, and then waves. So if it was best 1 wave, the person who gets the best wave is going to win, regardless of surfing, really, because the wave is the score. So I think you need to move away from the wave selection being so important and judge the performance more than the wave. Today we judge the wave more than the performance.
Exactly.
Like the surf range. The surf range was one left and one right. Yep.
Guys, we are in a 2-hour something. I think that Barton has an appointment as well. Guys, this is amazing life, okay? This is unbelievable. I am so happy and proud to have you here, Barton. My last name is Gentleman. Cavalheiro means gentleman, but the real gentleman is you, brother. You are something, mate. You are. Okay? Your last words for us, that this is a historic life for Brazilian, for sure. And I am very happy to listen and hear what you need to tell us from you about surfing, about your knowledge and about your life in surfing. You are very important for the sport, and keep doing what you do. You know what I mean? Keep thinking like you think. Okay, Pedro, this for me. I am very blessed for you guys can do your final words for this life that is amazing. Thank you very, very much, and very mahalo, man. Mahalo, mate.
I just like to thank everybody. I really like to thank Barton. You are really special, man. I love your point of view, your message, and people should listen to you. It can change a lot. Professional surf, maybe go back a little, like used to be, like 4-3. 3-2, 4-1, 5-0. Those are really important systems for the judging, I think, criteria. Oh, that's it. Thank you, guys. It was an honor for me to be part of this.
Well, just wanna, tell you, Barton, it was a pleasure to share this moment with you over here at Ícaro Cavalheiro's channel. And I'm a big fan of your podcast. The last one with Kelly was amazing. You know, the one before, most of them are pretty incredible because like Pedro was saying, you know, I think you're not only a surfer, you know, because yes, you were like world champion in 88. That's cool. That's awesome. But I think right now you are like a much better human being, you know, and this is like way better than being a world champion. You know, it's everything's in the past, but the way you're passing your knowledge right now, for me, that's the real legacy.
Yeah.
Right. People only think about trophies and world titles and medals and this and that. But what about the soul? Are you true to yourself? Right. And I feel like then you are the real soul surfer. And thank you to share your knowledge with us and on your podcast too.
You're too kind. You know what? Couple quick things before I go. You know, my daughter Tamron's 29. She was born in Sao Paulo. And, yeah. So my daughter's a brasileiro. An Aussielero, I suppose.
Aussielero.
And I spent a lot of time in Brazil, and you know the same was like Hawaii. When I came to Hawaii, you heard all the stories, and you see the stuff, whatever. But I never got that stuff. I only got good, mate. The Hawaiians always gave me love, respect. I gave it back, and I was like, "This is the best place in the world." When I went to Brazil, the things that people label on Brazil, I didn't see that. I never felt that. I felt nothing but good stuff, mate. Brazilians always cared for me, always looked after me from Rico de Souza and Pepe Lopez way back when, you know, all the way through the years. Picaruta Salazar. What about Tayu?
Tayu.
I've had such wonderful times over the years with the Brazilians that I feel connected, mate. My daughter, through my daughter, through all of that. So I just, you know, I want the sport to be successful. I want us all to be successful. And the more successful Brazil is, the more successful other places are, the more successful we all are. So I think having that positive mindset about it and always looking as a competitor, finishing note, I couldn't complain about what the judges did. What I had to do was watch what the judges did, understand why they did it, and then fix my stuff next time to suit them because they were the boss, not me. You know, and so that's kind of where you get to because you can't tell them what's up, but they're telling you what's up, and then you got to figure and learn from what isn't working and manipulate that situation to make it work. And I think that thing is kind of where we're at for Brazilian surfing. Is the future needs to be bright and positive and full of the jinga, right?
Yeah, the jinga, or the raça,
That to me, when I first saw about the jinga in Pelé's documentary, you watched the way Pelé played soccer or football, and the German coach, I think it was at the times, trying to make him not play with the jinga and not play with that spirit that is him, and trying to flatten him to play a traditional game.
Yeah,
but when he played with his spirit and with the jinga, that the magic happened. That's Brazilian surfing, mate. When those guys, when they stand tall and they don't let that stuff be a dark cloud on top of them, when they surf with the jinga and their spirit,
unbeatable.
No one can beat them, mate. Pretty much. That's the
unbeatable. Yeah.
Right on. Live.
Thank you, Barton. Thank you, Pedro. Thank you, André. You guys are the best. You are a legend and a gentleman for sure, Barton. We are inspired by you, okay? Thank you very much. Have a great day. Now, one message in Portuguese. Meus amigos, o negócio é o seguinte. Essa live vai estar toda ela traduzida em português, com legenda em português, logo após o término da live, ok? Obrigado a todos que ficaram conosco e tentaram nos entender. Barton, thank you very much. Mahalo. See you next time. You just go for it.
Tchau, amigos.
Tchau, amigos.
Muito obrigado.
Aloha,
até mais.
E até mais.
Tchau, brasileiros. Brasileiras.
Valeu.
Eu te amo.
Te amo. Boa.
Bem-vindo ao Inzuma Residencial Resort, o primeiro das Américas com piscina de ondas em água salgada. Mais que um resort, um imóvel em alto padrão para a vida inteira, onde a natureza se encontra com a aventura, os esportes radicais e aquáticos. Invista na sua qualidade de vida. Inzuma Residencial Resort. Ondas, aventuras e descanso o ano todo. Reserve sua propriedade agora.
For almost everything there is a limit. A limit to not get hurt. A limit to not say more than you should. But also a limit to not remain silent. Honest grades and judgments. That's all we ask. Destroy the waves, but don't destroy the surf. A campaign by the Ícaro Cavalheiro channel.
Já instalou a rádio Ícaro Cavalheiro? É simples, leve e fácil. Acesse o link que está no perfil do canal aqui no YouTube. Você pode ouvir na página que vai abrir ou optar por instalar em qualquer plataforma, iOS, Android e até mesmo no Windows. Rádio Ícaro Cavalheiro. Para quem vive o surf 24 horas por dia.